This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
Right.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Welcome everyone for the next casual race, Daytona International Speedway, of course. One of the biggest super speedways in America, and we're here with the fantastic Acura ARX-05 DPI. I'm, of course, Nicholas Hillebrand. I was gone yesterday, but I'm back today. We're back in rFactor 2, and today we have one hell of a grid to present to you guys. So, what can we say except you're welcome back? 45 minutes in an Acura ARX-05. This is going to be a hell of a speed fest. A lot of people are here. We have people like Jordi Sveers from John Alesi Esports Academy, Alistair Long and Cameron Rogers. So quite a few guys actually from endurance racing, and they are quite acquainted already to prototypes. So I think today we will see quite a lot of very good racing here. Of course, the Super Speedway with our, well, road course here, of course. The road course for the 24 hours of Daytona, of course, with the DPI, quite iconic already. And well, the Honda, of course, the newest of the DPIs if we go by introduction years. 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. Of course, the car weighs 930 kilograms and it should produce around 700 horsepower. So quite a good mixture for some interesting racing. High downforce as well for a lot of fast corners, like the bus stop, of course. Very iconic, that view of the long back straight and then this little twist into the bus stop. And certainly something to keep on your toes. In-game time will be 5 PM for the race start. We'll of course have a rolling start. Only 6 places were left open at the end of our little waiting time here, and it seems like a lot of competitive people have turned up today. Of course, everyone can join here, professional to amateur. And if you want to join the action, feel free to register at worldproracing.com and join our Discord. A lot of races are coming up. Pretty much weekly races in Assetto Corsa Competizione, GT Sport, and of course rFactor 2. So great variety. And of course, this race is of course broadcasted as well, not just on our social media, which you are free to follow as well, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. But of course, this race is also broadcasted on TVM Sport, ESTV, and Motorsport TV. We are also supported by our sponsors HyperX, Gaming Malta, Frostmaster, Visit Malta, and Melita. So, the question now is, are you ready for this action? There we go on track. 2 of our Acura ARX-05 on the banking. Another one here now on the road course here. Goes through turn 4, this very fast bend. Flat out when you're by yourself. And luckily, these cars will all be only in one class today, because if there is traffic here, it can get quite tight at times. But nevertheless, these are still quite a lot of cars on this circuit, and dirty air is always something that will affect your lines here. So right now we have Cameron Roger at the top of the timing standings. In practice with a 1:31.906. Jordi Sveers is 7/10 behind that. And Noel Coelho is in third, 1.4 seconds behind that. A lot of people still have to join the session and also set their times. But here we have Jordi Sveas now. John Olise Esports Academy, of course, with a very strong driver lineup since the middle of this year. Sveas being one of the new additions. And he improves, so he's only 3/10 off. That should be a 2:16. There we are. First sector actually purple, but the second two sectors not quite able to match Roger's pace so far. But we can see how much acceleration this car has. Less than a ton and over 600, 700 horsepower. Of course, no official figures because these cars only recently got separated from the LMP2 class, so they are now their complete own class. Of course, the DPI, the Daytona Prototype International class, is based on LMP2 chassis, and this Acura here is actually built on the Orica 07, just with their own power plant, and of course you can see it perfectly here. The front bodywork and headlights are completely a new construction. Noel Coelho, one of the privateers in this race, no team given on his entry, but nevertheless quite close to the front here. Not that far behind some of the top runners here. Wilson now up to P3. So I think that must be one of the late entries. No, actually, there we are. Michael Wilson from Larb Sim Racing, teammate of Alistair Long and of Peter Schulze, who should also be here later. So Larb Sim Racing here with 3 drivers today. So we have Steve DeSellis, a very familiar face to rFactor 2 casual races. Last lap from him was a 36.330. Fastest was a 2:46. Let's see if we can, if you can find some improvement here. And that is a 35.9. So another 3/10 improvement for Steve DeSellis. Very good gunning from here. Damien Vludiger in 4th place with another car right behind him. So I think he's on an outlap right now, and others, of course, they will try to start getting some experience already. Try to get some experience in dirty air running, of course, for basically the entire way back. After the road course, you really do not have as much of an influence with dirty air here, because it's mainly the benefit of slipstream, of course, the resistance of the air that is in front of you when you're moving at over 300 kilometers an hour, or if we put it into American units, around 182 or 184 miles per hour. The resistance of air is quite significant, and you don't notice it at first, but as soon as you're behind another car that just punches that air out of the way for you, you just have this incredible acceleration behind that other car, and just able to reach completely new speeds. This, of course, is a workshop mod, and that is actually Adam Plywatch just trying to take a bit too far on the inside for turn 2, well, turn 1 actually still, the little double apex here. First apex here, and second apex here, and that is Michael Wilson quite a lot too fast, knocks the wheel off. So people really testing the limits already, and Noel Coelho is actually testing the limits in the pit lane, it seems. Speaking of the pit lane, there are no mandatory pit stops for this race today, but overall, people should have to start with a full tank of fuel. 45 minutes is basically an estimate of these cars for one stint. So it will be interesting to see how people will cope with a full car. Of course, this is also low downforce territory, so, well, into the bus stop, coming into that behind other cars you will experience quite a lack of downforce behind other cars. More than you already are just driving into that by yourself, as we have one car here now exiting the pit lane. That is Michael Wilson for Larp. Cutting out there, quite confident. Even going over some of the sleeping policemen on the inside there. Obviously not too much of an impact yet. And we actually see so many people are running soft tires. Firewatch, Sterren and Moore, however, they have set their laps on medium tires. So very interesting to see there how people tackle this differently. There's Peter Schulze entering the server, the third Larp driver. And really quite good to see so many teams actually having their bigger debut here now. Of course, John O'Lacey was here before with Alan Terzic, but Larp, I think this should be their debut. And of course we have Cameron and Roger here as well for Hard Rod Automotive, so also something quite new still. We also see on the entry list here Haitam Abdelkader, so for Simsa Esports, which is yet another team which is already quite well known to rFactor 2 enthusiasts. But yeah, they will just make their debut here, I think, and Abdelkader, of course, one of the faster drivers as well. Now we have Lombards entering the server as well. So I think another one of the late entries for this event, but definitely a force to be reckoned with, if it is the Lombards I'm thinking of. But of course, as we saw with our brothers in Road Atlanta and races before that, of course, there's plenty of people with similar or the same nicknames in sim racing. Peter Schulze now on his first outlap, getting used to the circuit, getting used to the car. But of course, quite some experience already in sim racing. Actually used to drive under the banner of Flag to Flag some time ago. Keeps a tight line onto the oval there. Just out of turn 7, now coming through turn 8 and through turn 9. So if one thing has stayed the same in these corner numbers is that this classic NASCAR way of numbering corners is still in effect for the oval corners. Because of course these are such long banked corners. Basically the first almost 90 degree of the corner are turn 8, the second are turn 9, and here it's turn 12 and turn 13. This is basically done so spotters in NASCAR can actually have a bit more predictable callouts. For drivers, of course, they are pack racing in that, and with over 300 kilometers an hour in a pack with these stock cars with no downforce, quite difficult vehicles to drive. Of course, you want as accurate callouts on as short of a notice as possible. As we had one of the nice panning shots there that this track has to offer. Schulze now makes his way out of the Rodriguez International Horseshoe through turn 4 now. Should be his first time lap, now braking hard into turn 5, right-hand hairpin. This is a place where a lot of moves will get made, I predict. Now into turn 6, down to first gear again, and already on the throttle for turn 7. Now into turn 8 on the oval, and it is definitely quite a sight here. Of course, for people who don't have much experience with this, these bankings, they enable cars, of course, to go a lot quicker. The more on camber a corner is, the faster it can take, well, the faster the car can take the corner. And with extreme bankings like these, of course, these cars can drive quite fast here with quite little downforce. 2 green sectors though for Peter Schulze as he makes his way through turn 13, now towards the front stretch, as it's called here. What time will he take? And that is 4th place already, 1 second behind Cameron Roger. Little bit of a lockup, so really struggling to get that car properly stopped there. And resets back to pit lane, maybe do some last minute setup adjustments. Or not, we never know what these guys are actually still doing in these last minutes, last moments of preparation. Because of course this is a casual race, but any racing driver, whether it's virtual or real, of course they're all here to win the race. Noel Coelho actually with a purple Sector 3, so a little bit further of an improvement, 32.947. Very good stuff from him so far. If he can just translate that pace into his first 2 sectors, could make it further. And a nice little crowd cam here, the very enthusiastic crowd, of course, at the Daytona International Speedway. All barely able to stay on their seats. Some jump up, of course, when they see new lap times being posted. And we might be able to see the aforementioned slipstream effect here. Some people actually do a higher line here on this oval, try to get a bit more momentum out of turn 7 and turn 8. But a lot of people actually just stay down there, try to use the least distance possible. And you can see there, actually Coelho, I think he may have cutted the corner there, trying to adjust for the lack of downforce going into the corner. But look at this now. Actually goes out of the slipstream very early, but still, what a slingshot. Look at that. This is just the beauty of Daytona, and now slots in front of him, and the other car will now get the slingshot. It will be quite difficult for me to call out who actually will be in these different cars, because we only have a limited amount of liveries for this, and of course we can only see which drivers these are when we actually have the overlay. In the race it will be a lot easier, but in qualifying and practice it could be a bit of a few mix-up happening. Cameron Roger, however, nothing mixed up here whatsoever. Makes his way around turn 13 on this outlap. Tries to maybe put in another banker, maybe Jordi Zweers got a bit too close for his taste there, 3/10. Still a sizable chunk of time, but of course, if you can have someone of John Alesi Sports Academy behind you, of course you try to show some dominance and some pace, and make sure that he stays there and knows his place, even if it's only the practice. But of course, as I keep saying, practice is not only, well, last minute practice, but of course it's something to start playing mind games, because you see your competitors as close as you'll ever see them up until the race. As he makes his way now to turn 5, heavy braking. She lets himself get carried very nice and wide, then goes for an early apex and then just lets himself swing wide out of the exit of turn 5. Hard on the brakes for turn 6 now. Wide clean there, a bit of a wiggle actually in the middle. Through turn 7 now, back on the oval, and now in turn 8. So another one to opt for the low line, and that is a purple Sector 1, 52.379. And that could be alarming to some of the other drivers here, because Roger has no signs of slowing down. Very aggressive over the inside curbs there. Third gear and fourth gear being used extensively for that chicane, but lost a bit of time there. He lost a bit of time there, so not quite as he had planned. We can see there now, over 300 kilometers an hour. Maybe it will go up to 320, maybe a bit over that before he has to brake for turn 1. Perfectly, and on 320, spot on. And actually does pose a new fastest lap by half a second, green Sector 2. But that is quite a number, I have to say. And actually, Peter Schulze up to P2 here. Shoves himself 9,000ths of a second ahead of Jordi Sveers. And Schulze will be quite happy with that, I imagine. So, quite a few moves being made here already. Michael Wilson in 4th place. And Alistair Long in 5th place. So, LARP Sim Racing, quite strong showing here today already. Here's Jordi Sveers though with a personal improvement as well, I think, in the last lap. No, not quite. But there we have actually a nice pack of cars now, giving us a little preview of what we will see in a couple of minutes. Just nose to tail, and look at that, sliding a bit, locking up a bit, and barely no contact. And that is just Michael Wilson clipping the grass a tiny bit, getting run a bit wide there, trying to keep up with the other two cars, but not quite able to make it. And these guys, they are pure racers here. They really just want to get some wheel-to-wheel action going. Of course, most of them know each other already around the circuits through leagues like the Virtual Endurance Championship, of course. Now we have Miasha Moore actually joining as well, another of the drivers that we have here on our sign-up list. And there is some contact as well. And oh, big flip! Big flip there. Just in the bus stop, so I think there might be, just from the nature of that, there might be a bit of shenanigans, a bit of how these guys prepare for the race, how these guys just have a look at racing on the limit and how they can make moves in risky zones, and of course some avoidance practice, which well, failed a little bit in that moment. Completely unbothered by that though, Cameron Roger heads out again. Maybe tries out another new thing with the setup. Maybe tries to get a bit further ahead still. And gets past the turn 4 bend again. And now we go to Tom van Egmond. And the LO guys racing HPD. Well, actually Acura now. Of course, it used to be HPD, so Honda Performance Development. The predecessor of this was actually still a quite self-built car, actually. So a little bit of an endurance racing history lesson. This is, of course, the ARX-05, and the predecessor to this was the HPD ARX-04B, which was supposed to be an LMP2 car of the last generation to race alongside the Orica 05, the Ligier JSP2, and so on. And yeah, sadly that car didn't do all so well. Only raced in the 24 Hours of Daytona in 2015, I believe, and then got shelved and only got rediscovered by Meyershank Racing as a test mule, I think, for tires, for engine power plants, and so on. So a little bit of a tragic backstory to the predecessor of this car. This car, however, no lacks of performance whatsoever. Quite good downforce, quite good power. And now is the big question, practice is over, who will be able to get all of this pace onto the track for qualifying? It will be 15 minutes, of course, so people will be able to have quite a few runs. But the big question here is if they can actually get these runs together in one lap. We saw how difficult it can be just to get that perfect lap together. Of course, the main big problem for this lap, if you just want to go completely quickly, it is, of course, the road course. Alone, the first corner with the two apexes, you're coming from 320 kilometers an hour. And in the middle of that, even though it's, well, it almost feels like a hairpin when you drive it, even though that is the case, you lose all of your downforce and you're leaning on the tires. Even though you're doing that, you're still almost doing 100 kilometers an hour. So such a test on the limit, such a test for bravery. And of course, it will be even more extreme when we move to the race. But first of all, well, not practice, we've just been there, qualifying, and let's see how our drivers can actually put their laps together. First couple guys out together here already. Maybe a couple of tactics going on there. Miasha Moore here, actually just running right and letting the other car by. And that is Damien Vludiger. So I think these are some of the newer names to sim racing here. Quite nice, of course, to see new faces in our big sim racing family, wherever we go. And of course, it's quite difficult. But yeah, as we're speaking of new faces, you can see it down there. Join World Pro Racing's community by following us, of course, on our social media, and register on World Pro Racing if you want to race here. Join the Discord, and yeah, it's all written there already, but I'm just going to voice it out for you guys. of course, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Follow it all, like, subscribe, and be up to date with the newest racing action in World Pro Racing. No matter what your skill gap is, if you want to go racing, do it at World Pro Racing. So we have Damien Veludiger now here for his first lap. Takes it quite conservative into turn 1. And I think that is really, as I just said, it takes a lot of bravery into this section of the course. And here, little hairpin, of course, it's a lot of adrenaline as well when you're on your fast lap and you see a car just exiting what would be the racing line braking point after the turn 2 chicane. Veludiger now making his way to turn 5. Stays nice and clean overall. Lets himself get carried out. Just no wiggles there. Very, very nice driving from Veludiger so far. Turn 6 now lets himself get carried nice and wide once again. Turn 7, very nice as well. Stays on the inside now, right down at the yellow line. Turn 8, 53.742 for his first sector. Now out of turn 9 onto the back straight. And how hard on the brakes, 4th or 3rd gear depending on how they have gearing. Through the bus stop. Now through turn 12. Now 20.021 for sector 2. I've seen a few faster times there before, but of course these are the first couple of laps they're going to be putting in. We're also on a heavy rubber preset here, so quite some grip put down already. That is the first time put in 33.575 with a 19.811 in the last sector, and more actually comes in 1.5 seconds off, but also on the medium tires. That is Cameron Roger, just missing his marks a little bit. So he resets back to pit lane, and Wilson actually does the same. I think he may have gotten a little bit impeded there by Roger's car at the exit of the bus stop. Actually parks there as we see all the nice tents on the infield. Now Jordi Svea is making his way out of the pit lane through the Rodriguez International Horseshoe. And now on his way to turn 4. So we see a lot of people already pushing quite a bit and actually putting a little bit of punching above their weight limit. Maybe a bit too early, so making mistakes, and that is just what I mean. It doesn't seem like Daytona is a difficult track to drive because there's not too many corners that aren't flat out. Of course, the majority of this is these long flat out sections. This wonderful banked corner here, for example, turn 8 and turn 9, as we have Svea's actually just dip on the apron there for a moment and, well, weaving a little bit there. And we have Gomez now on pole position right now, provisional pole, 32.264, 1.3 seconds ahead of Veludiger, and people putting lap times in more and more. But back to this track description, a lot of this is of course flat out, but that is what makes it so difficult. You have places where you can lose so much time, simply because it's these very, very fine imprints that you have to get right. Now down to 2nd gear and just barely missing that tire wall on the inside. Very nice on board here with Jordi Svea, the John Alesi Esports Academy driver. Hard on the brakes now for the International Horseshoe. Lets himself get carried out wide to the outside curb. Up to 3rd, maybe up to 4th gear before he goes to turn 4. Yes, perfect. And now goes to turn 5. Hard on the brakes once again. 2nd gear, lets himself get carried a little bit wide just after the apex to take all of the momentum with him. And once again hard on the brakes for turn 6. 1st gear, gets it out there, turn 7, and now onto the banking for turn 8. Looked quite clean so far. Let's have a look how the first sector will look in just a few moments. 52.711, that's a purple. So we love to see that. New purple lap times, new pace improvements. So now it's going to start getting heated. Up to 6th gear now. Hard on the brakes just before that 1 marker board on the catch fence on the right. Through the bus stop on the limit. You could see that really pushing there. 19.635. in second sector. And now just this long way back to the front stretch, back to the... Oh, actually, very brave there, and actually he breaks off his lap attempt. So a little bit weird there, because 2 purple sectors to then break off. Maybe he has just had his lap cancelled. Maybe he got a bit too aggressive on the exit there. But nevertheless, we also see some improvements from other drivers in the field. Lüdiger improves, so he's only 6 tenths behind with 32.8. Kaspersik is in third with a 33.5, I think. And Coelho is behind him, 1.888 seconds off. And right behind that, Klajic and Teselis, only 400s apart. Only another 500s behind that is Moore, and behind that is Sterren. But all of these drivers here, of course, they're still pushing, they're still trying to get good laps in. Kaspersik now very aggressive once again. Look at these drivers just pushing these cars on the limit. Just really interesting, always fascinating, almost hypnotic to see how these cars handle on the absolute limit. Just maybe dipping down a little bit there once again on the apron, trying to stay as far on the inside as possible. Is it an improvement? I think that was an improvement from Kaspersik, even though it was... Oh, little dip into the tire wall there just to get reset. But yeah, 2 red sectors, but the first sector wasn't good enough to actually keep that improvement up. Coelho now here on another outlap, I think, or maybe he just started his lap. No first sector time set yet, on his way through turn 8 and 9, the first oval corner. That is actually a timed lap 53.4 there, and that is Lüdiger actually putting a bit too much pressure in turn 1. But back to Coelho here, on his way into the bus stop, braking on the limit, going very aggressive over those curbs, and that might have been a bit too much again. Either way, he lost a little bit of time through sector 2 there. And this is really just this very complex section of corners. The bus stop, of course, people will probably think of the most iconic old bus stop at Spa, but of course this is basically a similar corner. But Coelho actually, valid lap, improves to second place, 7,000ths of a second faster than Lüdiger, and he's going to be quite happy with that, 32.8 as well. And these gaps are really starting to come down now. Jos van der Sterren actually heading out again for another lap. At the moment 2 seconds off, and quickly taking a bit of a detour. Tom van Egmond actually getting out there as well. A little bit of oversteer there, a bit hard on the brakes. Slight lock-up, and of course on an outlap you want to get your tires on temperature. Maybe not in that matter, because of course these tires can be flat spotted quite easily. rFactor 2, well known for its highly advanced tire model, among other things like its weather features and of course completely dynamic track surface. But here we have Van Egmond next lap, and that's actually a little bit too far on the inside maybe, but let's see our actual in-game marshals decide that, because cut tracks are of course enabled here. Another flat out run here to start a quali lap, and I think maybe I have the slight feeling that Schulze, Sveers Long, Wilson, Lombards and Roger, all of those guys, either they're waiting for the very last minute to put a banker in, or maybe they're trying to start from the back just to have a little bit more racing entertainment. And that is just definitely Roger, just still standing there, nothing so far. And yeah, interesting tactics to be sure. Rulas Gomez now with his next timed lap, very aggressive for turn 1, goes over the very inside of that curb. In turn 2, and hard on the brakes for the International Horseshoe. Lets himself run wide very nicely there, takes all of the momentum of the corner with him. These cars, of course, with around 600 to 700 horsepower, they have quite a lot of power, so of course you don't notice as much if you lose a bit of momentum compared to a couple of the lower powered cars. But Gomez, nevertheless, he knows that momentum in every car is important. Very wide line, then actually gets on top of the situation by getting on top of the beginning of the banking, swinging down, getting a bit of gravitational force perhaps going, and that is a new purple first sector, 52.545.454. Bit of a little number twist in there, and just between 1 and 2, actually very late on the brakes, and I think that may have been a bit too late there, yes. And yeah, that was definitely a bit too late, completely over the grass. Red sector 2, but nevertheless, he apparently has more time to put in there. Maybe even get another run in with the momentum he's carrying right now. But that is still a lot of time gained. Lombard's actually... Ooh, that is actually quite a lot of time there. Lombard's actually gets his lap in, 32.180. Gomez on 0.085 behind that. Plywatch actually just over 3 tenths behind that. Kaspersik only 3 tenths behind that. Only a couple thousandths behind Plywatch. Egmont 3 tenths behind that, and Coelho only a few thousandths behind that. So the front of the field is getting really tight now. Last one of those guys within 1 second of pole position is Vludiger right now. So, well, in the last closing minutes, it actually got quite interesting. Tom Lombard's here. Exiting turn 7 and going into turn 8, maybe going for another lap. Maybe thinking that wasn't all I had. Now watch this, guys. I can go even faster. But I am interested to see in what these guys... And that is very on the limit from Tom Lombard. Through the bus stop, completely sideways for a moment there. Just gets the car whipped around. Whipped into shape. And definitely quite a feat to be done to keep it stable in the bus stop. Different load changes, of course. But here comes another fast lap from Tom Lombard. Big lockup though, and that is already over. So I think that is Lombard's qualifying over. Not quite what he wanted, but nevertheless, provisional pole. But of course, some people are still on the laps. Krulas Gomez here, on a quite clean line once again through turn 5. Makes his way to turn 6 now, and of course we know the end of turn 9 or turn 8, turn 9, there is where sector 1 ends, the biggest sector of them all. Over 50 seconds long, and sector 2 and sector 3 only around 20 seconds, and that is actually in fact a purple first sector from Krulas Gomez, 4.42. So Lombard's now under a lot of pressure. If he can get this better than the last time we saw him, that is quite a lot better, in fact. Still on the grass, but I think that should be valid. 19.735 actually in the second sector, so maybe lost a little bit of time there. But nevertheless, he still keeps pushing, so I think it's still valid. Still keeps pushing with maximum pace. There we are now across the line, and he's done it! 2 tenths. He gains overall around 3 tenths, puts himself on pole position, and Lombard gets relegated to P2. In the last moment, the clock was over. Everything was at 0 already. Lombard with his last run just not quite able to put it down even in turn 1, and that just shows how really imperative it is to get especially these couple of first sector corners completely correct. High load braking zone, of course, every racing driver who hears that loves that. High load braking zone from high speed with reducing downforce. Just to add some more details in there, and any real racing driver, and of course sim racer as well, they will lick their lips there, like they're seeing a very nice bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken ahead of them. But yeah, it can be a double-edged sword. A very nice corner to drive can be a very not so nice corner to mess up with a lockup, which was the case in Lombard's last qualifying run. And Gomez, just completely on top of things, was able to put it together in the end. Now we're just waiting for our final verdict here, for our jump from the qualifying session to the race session. So as it stands, the grid should be Gomez with a 31.931, then Lombard's behind him, and of course, just like that, the session finally changes. You can see actually the lighting changes as well. You can see the Ferris wheel actually start lighting up in the background, so very nice atmospheric feeling going on there. But yeah, what can I say except for what a run by Crulas Gomez there in the last seconds, yes. Just he really had to be where he had to be. He knew where he had to be and placed himself perfectly, didn't put a foot wrong, and his gains through Sector 1, of course, the place where you can to win or lose the most time. Win and gain does not make a good word combination together. He knew that Sector 1 is the most difficult part to get right. He got it perfectly right, and now starting from pole position. Of course, that is the perfect place to start, and front row, of course, into this very interesting first corner will be quite difficult for him to put it perfect. 4 minutes of warm-up remaining, so we just have a few more minutes of drivers preparing themselves for this race. 45 minutes, of course. Qualifying is one thing, but keeping this together in the race is the other, especially with these very, very long straights. We know this, of course, with the banked corners as well, which might as well be straights because they're completely flat out. And I think that there will be a lot of overtaking going on. Of course, people will also try and play a little bit of tactics with their slipstreaming. A lot of people, of course, Sveers, Rogers, and of course Long as well, for example, they didn't put a lap time in, so they are starting from the back, maybe wanting to have a little bit more racing action because they definitely seem to have more pace in practice, and this will be the interesting part to see now. Is Gomez going to be able to hold that lead, or will the guys charging from the back actually be able to make their way from that not quite last to first, but the back to first challenge? So yeah, nothing on the table except for bragging rights, but for these guys, that is more than enough. Just a few more minutes to go. And we are quickly switching away for a few ads.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
And we're back here in Daytona. Of course, only the race coming up, the highlight of the evening. 45 minutes of pure racing action in these fantastic Daytona prototype international cars, the Acura ARX-05. So, who will be able to take the crown? Will it be our pole setter, Cruz Gomez? Or will it be one of the charging people from the back? Will it be Jordi Sveers? Will it be Cameron Roger? Will it be Alistair Long? Or will it be the man who got beaten in the very last seconds of qualifying? Will it be Tom Lombards, who may be able to establish himself up front again? We don't know yet, but we're about to find out. Just waiting for the last couple of seconds here. Waiting for, well, the last couple moments of our on-track marshals preparing the safety car for the formation lap and preparing all of the cars, of course, all the teams preparing the cars. This moment, of course, once again, if you want to join events like these, feel free to join World Pro Racing. Just sign up on your smartphone, on your PC, anywhere on our website. Join the Discord and, of course, like, share, subscribe, and follow, of course, on all of our social media. Be up to date with the latest news from World Pro Racing, with the latest events, and, of course, the latest racing series. There we have everyone lining up on the grid now. And that nice banking there. And they're starting to head off now for the formation lap. You can hear that V6. I think the best word to describe it would be a growl from all of these cars. The nice evening sun of Daytona Beach. Course, right here. Very familiar camera to any sports car racing fan. Just all of the cars making their way through turn 2 chicane, and there was actually almost a little slide jab there for a second. Just under formation lap. Of course, unlike a lot of other simulations, collision is always enabled, so people will have to watch where they're driving. Cruz Gomez actually, and where do we have him? Damien Vludiger, actually on hard tires. Nope, never mind. There we are. That was just a little display error for a second. They're all on soft tires. Everyone is just trying to get through this one stint race as quickly as possible. And of course, we have this very, very nice, once again here, trackside camera. It's just very nice to look at all of these cars just make their way around the track. The lighting of the setting sun also really captured very nicely here. And I think, just judging from the sun, I think we might actually be looking at a sunset. So maybe a little bit of darkness towards the very end, or just as the sun is setting at the end of this 45-minute race. So everyone's still waiting here behind the safety car. Can see a little bit of weaving there down the grid. So we're here on the back straight. Let's go through the grid one last time. Gomez in front of Lombards there in the first row. On the inside we will have the uneven number positions. Gomez, Lombards, Plywedge, Kasperzik, Egmont, Coelho, Vludiger, Sterren, DeCellis, Moore, Roger, Schulze, Sveers, Long and Wilson. Roger, Schulze, Sveers, Long and Wilson, of course, didn't put in a qualification lap, so they will be starting from the back of their own accord. So they're all fanning out of the bus stop. Of course, it gets tightened up a little bit because that section of the track is a lot tighter than our main oval here, of course. Very fun to see all these dynamics between these cars. But now everyone's just trying to format perfectly. Car in 8th place. It is Sterren actually leaving a little bit of a gap there. And the cars behind him, of course, will be pushing for him to close that gap. But he may just look that he doesn't get caught out to get slowed down by cars ahead. Of course, you have to stay close. You want to stay close in these situations. But if you're too close and you just have a better reaction than the car in front, you will have to just back off again. Now the pace car pulls in. And 45 minutes of racing action are about to get going. There's one of the cars that is, I think, Peter Schulze actually already looking for the outside. People still warming up their brakes. And there we are, green flag. Let's go, go, go here in Daytona. Gomez gets the jump. And that's actually Kasperzik looking for almost 3 wide at the first corner. Plywatch makes the best of it though. Kasperzik actually can't quite get the job done. And now Roger in the middle, 3 wide, and actually collision stand. That really didn't work out for Roger there. Roger with a spin, and that's actually a few more collisions. Miasha Moore now back in 9th place. I think Roger in 13th may have just gotten a chance to 360 it and able to carry on. But we see the front, Grudas Gomez with a defensive drive so far. Ahead of Tom Lombards, Kasperzik took back P3 from Plywatch. Egmont stays in P5 and Coelho in 6. So a lot of racing action, a lot of contact actually during the tight first sector, during the tight first few corners. So a lot of people got caught out by that. And now we're waiting here. Look at this wonderful, wonderful camera shot here. All of these cars, and now here comes the big pack. Here comes the big pack in the back. All of them just pack racing and slipstreaming. And a lot of moves being made there in the background. Coelho actually really trying to stay there, and that is Sveers and another car actually. That is even more contact. That's really not what they wanted whatsoever for their stuff. And here we are. Let's see what's happened here actually. That is Sveers looking for the inside and actually just misjudges his braking. Kills not 1 but just 2 cars, so he spins on the inside of the corner. Hits 1 car to the outside, and as he's on the inside, just slides across the track, hits another car, so 3 cars involved in that collision. And I think one of them was DeCellis, and the other 2 should have been, if I am correct, Long and Sveers. So everything not going as they wanted. Meanwhile though, Cameron Roger, after his 360 and unplanned spin, already up into 8th place. Michael Wilson right behind him, looking for the outside now for turn 5, and actually makes it ahead of the next car. But Sterren is actually holding against it. Not quite able to hold against it fully though. So Roger around the outside of turn 5, very well done there. And of course though, he will be within slipstream range now. Now trying to make up a 2.7 second gap ahead of him. You can see that wonderful rear view mirror, or rear view camera actually. That car's getting closer, spooking ever so closer. Perfect here, a little bit of spooky action. That is not what you want, as cars are creeping closer just before the bus stop. Spooky, of course, still very topical a couple of days after Halloween. But, of course, we're here in the daylight, beautiful Daytona Beach, and Lombard's actually established himself ahead of Gomez now. Gomez must have done a mistake there, lost the lead, and actually lost 2nd place as well. So Lombard's, Kasperzik, Gomez, Egmont, Plywatch. That is the top 5 right now. That is actually Van Egmont actually looking to make a move into turn 1. But so are the next 2 cars behind. So we have pretty much a 4-way fight for P3. That's Gomez, Egmont, Plywatch and Coelho. And this battle, of course, slows all of them down, and that is a lot of good chances now for Roger to start gaining on them. Only 1.5 seconds. Jos van der Sterren actually in 9th place behind Michael Wilson, having to defend from Peter Schulze into turn 5 now. Definitely one of the hot spots for passing and for making moves, and Schulze looking for the outside, looking for the inside through turn 5, outside for turn 6, but not quite able to get the drive to get alongside. But now he has the drive. Look at this acceleration coming out of turn 7, now side by side. Actually, if he positions his car perfectly, should get a little bit of a side draft even, but not quite able to. Pulls a little bit in there, but now more momentum kicking in. Van der Sterren gets a drive through for the collision with Roger, so didn't quite leave enough space there. Quite unfortunate for him. But that's Schulze making his way through, and Van der Sterren, of course, will lose a lot of time with that drive-through. Back to the front, Tom Lombard leading. Cameron Rogers side by side there with Michael Wilson now. That is a lot of battling going on. Side by side now, and actually that's not him battling with Wilson, that's him battling with Coelho for P6, and he's made it actually. I think that was also our fastest lap of the race, so Roger's really on it now. That start collision, if anything, other people would get beaten down by it, would get a bit intimidated by it, but if anything, it seems to have fired Rogers up, and Van der Sterren just done with his drive-through, but something must have happened there. So he just reset, and that is Jordi Swears in the grass once again. Not the best form for the John Elise Esports Academy driver right there. That is with Vludiger. So trying to make a move for the outside and just gets... that is very borderline. So one could argue he was alongside, so he was alongside for the braking zone, so I think Vludiger just not quite anticipating him to be alongside there as much, but that is, I think, a blown engine there as well. That is Coelho. So just still battling with Roger, just battling at the beginning of the road course. Then this tiny mistake there, sliding a bit wide and hitting the tire wall in the most inopportune angle. And tire ripped off. The engine says no thank you to that. And it's gone. And just like that, a race can end so quickly. Roger's already made his way to P4. Rulas Gomez doesn't want to just let that sit upon him, as Peter Schulze goes for the fastest lap of the race. All of them battling in the very close little pack here now. Now it's already the first 7 minutes almost over. Rulas Gomez still looking to make a move back on Cameron Roger, who's now looking at the back of Tom Van Edmond. Roger really looking quite clean there. A little bit of a lockup as I say that, so a little micro commentator's curse. Just flying through turn 5 there. Even though it's a hairpin, it's still considerably faster than most of us would take it, and that was Gomez. Very good car control, messing up turn 6 and 7, but able to avert a fate like it had before, befell Mr. Coelho just a lap earlier. Rulas Gomez now on the defensive now. Slipstream quite strong, but he's able to hold the inside, and that is Plywatch that's not able to make the move done, and that actually cost him so much momentum that he loses his next 2 places to Wilson and Schulze. So it's really looking good for Laab right now. All their drivers are making it up the order. Let's actually see where's Alistair Long, one of the other Laab drivers. It's actually a bit further back. Roger's actually in the pit lane. So that might be for some damage. Or maybe a penalty as well. And actually he's DNF'd as well, so that is just very unfortunate. Tom Lombards, meanwhile, he's gaining more and more of a gap. And that is the next... penalty coming in. Actually, we've got him still going, so I think that was just a little display error. So Roger might have just gotten himself a repair. Or maybe a little cut track penalty, maybe a little stop and go. We will not know at this moment, but of course we could find out after the race. Maciej Kasperzik in 2nd place with Tom Van Ekman right behind him. Meanwhile, a bit further down the order, now in 10th place actually, as he made it up the order for a few places. Jordi Swears now received a 10-second stop and go penalty for the incident on Alistair Long. So that must have been the incident in the bus stop on lap 1, and that is Kasperzik very desperate to hold the fort for P2, but not quite able to. Now Egmont on the outside line, very far up on the banking, and Kasperzik doesn't have a moment to breathe. Gomez right behind him now, a lot of slipstream there. Does he look for the inside or the outside? It actually looks for the inside a little bit, tries to go for the inside, but Kasperzik slams the door for the inside. Almost making go on the apron. That is contact there, and both cars go around. Maybe a little bit too aggressive there from Gomez, and that is more contact, and more contact, and that is definitely not how Gomez wanted that move to go. Wilson, meanwhile, is the main gaining party, up to P3 now. And Alistair Long in first place. How did that happen? I think that might be a timing glitch for a second. Yes, that is a timing glitch, because Alistair Long just DNF'd. So, Lombards, Egmont, Wilson, our new top 3, Kaspersik in 4, Plywacz 5, and Schulze continues his charge to the front, now right on the tail of Plywacz. So, Lombards, he just keeps on going, 7-second gap now, completely by himself, and behind him, people are trying to catch up, but it's not gonna work if you hit each other, guys. So, quite a bit to be done there, quite a bit to be rectified in their racing style, maybe. Because of course everyone wants to race, everyone wants to battle, but if you want to try and go for a win, if you want to try and go to catch up the lead car, it's not going to work like that. But what's going to work very well indeed is Peter Schulze here. Slipstream now for the outside and just gets it past, gets it done very easy, even before the front stretch. As he goes very commandingly in front of Maciej Kasperczyk. Kasperczyk actually going for a bit of throttle again to try and close the gap between the two apexes of turn 1, but it's for naught. Schulze really on fire right now, and Kasperczyk with a very, very big lockup in front of Plywacz, so maybe he's getting dialed back a bit further now. So of course, if you're in the slipstream of another car, even at those speeds, that's around 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers maybe, downforce still plays a lot into your brakes, because of course it's a force holding you on the ground, it's a force pressing you to the ground, and if that is gone while you're just driving straight, of course you are still going to miss that force. Of course you lack that extra little bit of grip that you would normally have under brakes. But here we have Ton van Egmond now through turn 9 down the back straight towards the bus stop, and right behind him we have Michael Wilson, the lap driver, coming from the back, actually getting ever so closer. It's getting a little bit closer and closer and closer. Just, well, a bit of distance gained through the bus stop, but now we see, once again, we see the slipstream kick in. Now it goes from almost 6/10 down to 5/10, now to 4.5/10, and now to 4/10. And look at how much that car is gaining. Looking down the inside, and Egmont got a little bit intimidated there. Not quite able to hit his perfect line. So only 3/10 distancing him from Wilson now. 2.8 seconds behind that, 2.7, 2.8. Behind that is Schulze already, the next lap driver. So even though they lost one of their own, the remaining 2 lap drivers still very, very desperate to make this a good result to write home about. Ton van Egmond here, still trying to do a good defensive drive, of course. Still very well. And the yellow guys, racing driver, very, very good job from him so far to keep it overall relatively clean when you consider what kind of incidents we had before and what kind of incidents he had to make his way through. So very good job from him so far. 9 seconds at the moment. But now for the inside, Wilson not able to make it. Almost had an incident like Sveas there in lap 1. We have the next penalty, that is for turn 1 probably. Is Chris Gomez getting a stop and go for that turn 1 incident with Kasperczyk. And that is just very, very unfortunate. But of course, we have our FIA accredited stewards here. Quite difficult to overall keep the handle on everything, of course. We have so much action here, even though we have lost 3 cars so far. And Wilson still not able to make that move quite stick yet. Of course, you have a lot of straights here, and we have Sveas and Gomez actually both pitting now to get their penalties out of the way. And there's Gomez already out of it again. Coming in to the last bit of the pit exit. And Wilson actually made a little bit of a mistake. Lost around 0.7 of a second. And I think Svears may have either just parked the car or... Yeah, I think he may have just parked the car completely. So, a little bit of a shame for Jordi Svears. The John Alesi esports driver is not going to be happy with that race result. But let's focus on what is right now and not on what has been. Because what is right now is that Tom Lombards is leading with an 8.8 second gap. But Tom Van Egmond, he has found a sort of second wind. Overall, he is able to keep that gap to Lombards right now. If he can just get a little bit better of an overall run into this, he may be able to still catch up. We have still 30 minutes to go. A third of the race is over. We lost 4 cars, but it's 11 still remaining. And a lot of them are still quite close to each other. And actually, Svears getting going again. So, actually now a lap down, but yeah, quite odd that he was stationary for so long. Wilson still trying to gain on Van Egmond. And of course, it's not just the front that Wilson has to worry about, because from behind comes his teammate, Peter Schulze. The 2 Lab drivers, of course, they are a bit more secure in their positions, so to say, in comparison to a couple of the other drivers, because of course their teammates, they will not do anything to endanger each other's position in the race, or, well, at least too extremely, because of course the one thing that you don't want to do as teammates is, well, collide with each other, and that is definitely, I think, the #1 priority in these races, even if it's just for bragging rights. In any race, it's just a little bit embarrassing, of course, a bit of moment of silence if teammates hit each other. But as I just rumble on about that, we have actually Wilson with a fantastic run through the bus stop. Egmond actually hitting the apron twice there. Now they're side by side here. Wilson's running out of momentum though. And actually, yeah, he's able to make it past though. The outside braking line really made it work for him. So Wilson slots in for P2. Right behind that we have Egmond now. Still not done yet. He's saying, no sir, I will not be defeated just yet. I still have some fight left in me. The tighter line through the international horseshoe. And right behind that we have Kaspersik, and I think behind that the car that is actually Jordi Svears, who's now a lap down. So the new order right now, as it stands: Lombard, Wilson, Van Egmond, Schulze, Kaspersik, Plywedge, Rüdiger, Gomez, Roger and Moore. That's our top 10. And De Celis is the last car that's on the lead lap, and then of course we have Jordi Svears here left, or as some other commentators like to also call him, and as some of our friends like to call him, Jordi Zwires. And I couldn't keep myself from making that reference because it's just too iconic by now. Speaking of iconic, that is certainly something to be clipped on Twitch, hopefully. Wilson going a bit too aggressive through the bus stop. Van Egmond thinking, I will not lose time, I will just do the same thing, and Schulze going with it like it's a new fashion trend, so all 3 of them just completely going over the grass. I could make a joke over the Honda lawnmower here, but I will keep that to myself for now as they go 3 wide into the turn 1. Barely staying out the inside wall there. Wilson, fantastic car control, and Egmond and Schulze as well. Just minor contact there. Fantastic driving from all 3 of those. And Schulze actually makes it for turn 2, now actually turn 3, the horseshoe, but Van Egmond tries to go for a closing gap and spins himself around. So he lost quite a bit of time there now, 7 seconds behind now. So that is a bit of a shame for the Hello Guys racing driver. Michael Wilson, though. He has been fighting for P2 quite some time. And I think to him it doesn't matter if it's an Hello Guys racing driver or if it's a teammate of his of Lab. that is in P2. He wants to go for that P2, and either way, both of them are catching up at the moment a little bit on Lombards. But too wide into the bus stop, both of them on the limit, and I think that Sve is right behind them, lap down. All three of them quite close, and that almost looks like bump draft to me. And it is bump draft, and Sve is joining in on the mix. My voice actually breaking there. That is a lot of risk, guys. Don't throw it into the wall like that. Bump drafting in DPIs when you think you've seen everything. And Schulze stays ahead for now. Sveers makes his way past around the outside, I think, to just get ahead of those two guys. But either way, they're helping themselves actually gain a bit of time there, as the gap shrinks down to 7.3 seconds now. So Schulze and Wilson, Love Sim Racing, the men with the plans, and that is definitely a sight to behold. Now the question is well, actually now from the new camera angle, I think Wilson will definitely be able to bump draft once again if they want to keep doing this, and Gomez actually heading for the pit lane again. I think that might be for a DNF. Peter Schulze still a bit too far ahead for bump draft, and a yellow flag in sector 1. So actually no, we have Gomez back out of the pit lane. I think that might have been another stop and go then. And there is actually another penalty. That is a drive-through for Michael Wilson for the incident of Van Egmond. So the stewards, having looked at it, they said Van Egmond was alongside, and closing the door on him wasn't quite so productive, and that is a very wild ride for Michael Wilson into turn 1. Keeps it very well together to not lose it. So incredibly on the razor's edge there. And that actually Lombards, who's lost a lot of time. I just noticed that. Those 8 seconds just lost out of nowhere. 1.2 seconds, 1.5 seconds of a gap to Schulze. And Wilson, of course, sadly, he will lose out on that battle now because of his drive-through penalty. But Peter Schulze now almost within striking range as they head through turn 9 once more, just past the halfway mark in this race. And I think that might be Jordi Sveers trying to unlap himself. Not quite gonna do it yet. Desellas actually lost a lot of time as well, so at some point during all of this racing action, Sveers passed him as well. And Schulze now using the back marker to his advantage, gain a bit more. Actually, that is Schulze. So the back marker got through in that bus stop situation, and that is indeed Jordi Sveers with now the fastest. That is actually a quite fast lap time, 31.296. Faster than we've seen in qualifying, I believe. And yeah, Schulze and Lombards now battling for the race lead. 21 minutes remain. And you can see the sort of change. You can see the change in mood basically in the driving there. Schulze a little bit more gentle there with Wilson, a little bit more relaxed driving. You could basically see it, just how they were handling it. But now that he's there with someone who isn't his teammate, you can see this completely new fire in his eyes, to speak metaphorically. You can see no more bump drafting, no more happy little fun times. This is business now. What is even more serious business is the slipstream, but he doesn't go for a move there. He thinks better of it, wants to stay close, and that is Lombards actually very much on the edge through the bus stop, rubbing a lot of tires there and through that. Lost a lot of momentum, actually touching the apron there as well, getting a little bit unsettled. And Schulze already looking for evading action. But actually both of them heading to the pit lane. Now that is something that I didn't anticipate. Side by side in the pit lane. And it looks like a drive-through penalty. It looks like a drive-through penalty for both of them. Side by side in the pit exit. And I've never seen this before in any race in my life. Whether I've commentated on it, whether it was virtual or real. I've never seen this in my life. Absolutely incredible scenes here. So, Van Egmond actually regains the lead, the Alloy Guys racing driver. Lombard's right behind him now, and Schulze right behind Lombard. So, we now have a three-way battle for the lead. And Michael Wilson is not too far behind either. So, what has happened there? That is my big question right now. And it's absolutely unbelievable seeing side by side, too wide, down the pit road. Still can't believe that happened. Just to get back on topic, Van Egmond still within slipstream strike range, of course. Same goes for Schulze, however. And both of them are getting closer now. And actually, Schulze actually losing a little bit of gap now. Because Lombard actually makes that move into the bus stop. Very nicely done from him. And Schulze now has to evade. Oh, actually, no, it's still ahead. He's still ahead. Lombard's actually still not able to make that move. It looked like he was able to do that, but not quite able to do that move. And now Schulze comes in with the move side by side, looking for a side draft, looking for the outside line for the brakes again. I've seen that being used quite a few times in this race already. Look how much he's gaining just on that outside line on the brakes. This is just really incredible. How much a little bit of a wider line can help you to reach your wanted destination next to another car. But Lombard's really struggling for grip right now, really just trying to push on the limit and not quite able to put everything of his potential onto the road, as we have Rüdiger going to the pit lane as well. So maybe another drive-through. And just looking overall at the track limits, at how the guys we've seen so far have handled themselves, I think it might have been drive-throughs for track limits. So they're really fighting all out at the moment. Maybe even so far all out that the game has to remind them, sorry, the simulator has to remind them, the marshals in the simulator have to remind them, guys, the grey is the track, and this time I will make the Honda lawnmower joke, as the lawnmower triplets actually just go for another trip on the grass and mow a bit of Daytona lawn. And very far on the inside, almost looking like they will go into the pit lane once again. Van Egmond's trying to defend on the inside, but the other two cars just too fast on the outside line, and that's once again a bit of contact. Van Egmond with a long slide through turn one, barely able to keep it together, holds it out of the inside wall as well. And that is Lombard making his move for the lead again. A little bit of contact there, so a little bit of upset in the car of Egmond from contact. But he's able to keep it together. Absolutely fantastic car control from everyone involved once again, because of course Schulze could have easily just placed his car a little bit wrong in that situation and just gotten very bamboozled in that moment. Continuing out of turn 7 though, once again, it's just 16 minutes to go. Time really flies like the planes overhead from Daytona Beach Airport, and of course like the cars here on track as the sun sets lower and lower. And there is Schulze with another bit of bump draft with Ton Van Egmond. So the Alloy Guys driver getting a bit of yeah, how could you say it, a bit of a larp support, but a bit too much momentum through the bus stop, so not quite able to utilize their working together to the fullest. Lombards is really laughing into his fist there, but once again a little bit of bump draft, little bit of a nudge to just give Schultz a bit more momentum, and that is just so much time that can be gained through little tactics like that. And Van Egmond is dropping a bit behind now. Maybe that was his way of saying, I'm not able to match his pace. Go, my friend. Go and fight Tom for the lead. And maybe it was also another thought of Tom Van Egmond. Just, I can't catch him by myself, but if Peter can just drive a bit faster, can involve him in another battle, maybe, just maybe, they slow each other down enough so I can be the third guy who laughs at the end of the day. And it is getting darker and darker and darker. Soon we should also get the floodlights if this goes on. And the cameras here, of course, like the TV cams, they're a bit higher up. They're placed a little bit higher up than this entire thing. And of course, this is just such a nice ambient atmosphere. Speaking of a nice atmosphere, of course, this is a casual race, and of course, you can see with all the bump drafting, with all the battling, a lot of fun is here on the track. And if you want to join in on the fun, as we saw on the little pop-up just below, just feel free to join us. If you want to be in on the fun, if you want to race yourself, everyone can join. Everyone's free to join, no matter if you're a pro, if you're just a complete amateur. If you're maybe someone from real racing, which we've seen quite a lot this year, you know, if you're someone from real racing wanting to make its first steps into sim racing, anything goes. Just sign up on our website, worldproracing.com. Just come to Discord, follow, like, subscribe, and of course, retweet or, well, just follow everything of World Pro Racing on social media, on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, to be up to date with new events. And soon, of course, I might be commentating on you guys. Of course, just as a reminder, of course, we've seen a bit of wheel banging here, but our FIA accredited stewards will take a look at any kind of racing. So incidents will be looked at. So of course, we take a lot of pride and a lot of value in clean racing. So if you needed another reason to join this, you know, clean racing enforced by FIA grade stewards, so from the most qualified people that we could possibly have. Now down the front stretch, side by side, looking for the outside braking zone once again, but not able to make a move just yet. Schultz looking down the backside of a Lombard. Still close and closer and closer. 2-3 tenths, this is the constant gap. And that's actually Tom Lombard's a little bit out braking himself. Now side by side, gonna look to go side by side through turn 4, and Lombard's not wanting to leave any amount of space there. But Peter Schulze says, I'm later on the brakes than you, mate. I was able to hang on there. And now it is your time to hand over that lead to me. But Lombard says, right back at you. Maybe you will get the lead now, actually. I think he was trying to get it a little bit more cleaner there, but bit of too much tire slip, of course. This is the difficulty, to put all these 700-ish horsepower down on the road. Just trying to get it all perfectly on the road. Tom Lombard once again, and that is Tom Van Egmond utilizing the lawnmower aspect of his Acura once again. Acura, of course, if people didn't know, Acura is the American outlet of Honda. And here we have the nice line, with a nice camera at the start-finish line. Very close looks here, nose to tail, as they head to the braking zone. Van Egmond not quite close enough yet to make a move. It's just over 10 minutes left in this race. So not too many more laps, maybe 6 or 7 laps. And that is Lombard's almost spinning. Ooh, that is... I think that is the tire wear on Lombard's car really starting to get noticeable now. Lombard's really pushing through the entire race and not quite able to conserve his tires as much. Maybe he was just looking to build a very big gap. It's one mistake, that's all it takes to lose that gap. And of course, if you just put too much stress on your tires before, then in the situation when you actually have to battle, very, very unfortunate situation to find yourselves in. Schulze though, leading now, making his way into the bus stop. 1.3 seconds, 1.2, 1.3 seconds. His gap consistently right now. Von Egmond gets the line better this time, gets it better than Lombard's as well. And is he looking for a bump draft or is he looking for a move? He's looking for a move, I think. So he stays in the slipstream just under a tenth away. And actually that's a little bit of bump draft there. Just to try and push that car closer to Schulze. So Van Egmond willing to work with anyone as long as it means that he's able to fight for the win. So unlikely alliances being forged on the racetrack, just not by any contract, not by any writing, just by a few glances and actions, of course, in these cars. And of course, quick decision making is one of the things that you need to have in these cars. Lombard's once again sliding a little bit more through corners than Schulze and Egmond, so he's really starting to struggle on his tires, I would think. And Egmond still within slipstream range. And I think actually the reason why Egmond is able to stay so easily with Lombard's now through the bus stop is because Lombard's tires might just be that far gone already, because yeah, look at that, still gaining. Of course, like a little bit of cutting there, a little bit of testing the track limits going on the exit of that as well. But Egmond is just able to take so much momentum despite these dirty air situations, and Cruz Gomez actually in the pit lane, and that is the entire lead pack heading in for the pits. So all of them maybe just opting for for a pit stop, and that was not what Lombard's wanted whatsoever. And that is not what Wilson, what Schulze wanted whatsoever. Wilson, of course, his teammate just coming in for his pit stop, gets stopped just in front of Schulze, just as Schulze was going to get going, and very unfortunate timing for both of them. And well, unlikely person that we thought we wouldn't see in this situation up at the front again. Cameron Roger. I think he might have been running at a lower fuel map or something in this situation. So now back up to third place. Of course, 45 minutes is around the maximum time of these cars because they still orient themselves around the global LMP2 stint times. So 40-45 minutes, it depends on the track. So if they were running in a high fuel map, it can very well be that they just had to top off for last splash and dash for the last 5 laps here. Just over 6 minutes remaining. 6, maybe 7 laps if they're very fortunate. And Lombard's still stays ahead. Just as I said, Lombard's, he missed his pit lane spot just by a few meters. Had to reverse back into the spot. But Schulze then got held up even more by his teammates. And of course, that's the last person you want to get held up by. So Schulze, I think, of course, still on the old tires. Maybe not the most optimum situation. 3 seconds of a gap, but how long will he be able to keep that? Schulze seemed quite a lot better on his tires. Both of them can, of course, keep just blasting away at maximum power. That's Cameron Roger actually a little bit too far inside, a little bit too optimistic to go fast and on the inside, but still just trying to gain some time. But what a comeback it has been for Cameron Roger actually. 4.5 seconds now behind Schulze. And Cameron Roger, what else could he have done after this penalty? What else could he have done in this entire situation, in this predicament that he found himself in? So he just went ahead and made the best of it. Tom Lombard's now under 3 seconds ahead of Schulze. And it's the last couple of laps. Can Schulze catch up these less than 3 seconds in these last, I want to say, probably 3 laps to go, because it's 4 minutes now. They will go across the line, and on average they do 132s, 133, so it will be 3 more laps. And this very nice, this very beautiful scenic shot of the setting sun. The setting sun of Florida, right at the beach, of course, like this racetrack. So very nice climate, except for, of course, in the winter, where sometimes it tends to rain quite a bit. But Schulze now already 2/10 right behind Lombards. And what is that? Both of them are actually... That is actually quite something. Well, both of them, all of them are in the pit limiter. There. I'm at a loss of words for now. Just when I thought that the double drive-through was weird. Now Lombard, Schulze, Roger and Wilson, they're all just sitting together. All on pit limiter, all waiting for each other, and Van Egmond actually gaining as well. I think maybe he will join their ranks. Actually getting a bit of information from one of my inside sources that they did a competition drive-through. Yeah, so just to keep a bit of fight alive. So yeah, these guys really are just 100% in for some fun, for some racing. They're just a couple of friends that want to have some wheel-to-wheel racing, and of course that is quite the nice thing. And once again, the lawnmower attack, the lawnmower strategy, and that is Schulze going quite on the inside, racing on the apron. Now Wilson will go around his outside, and I really hope that these guys will, a couple of these guys will swing by for an interview later, because they have some explaining to do. Now side by side there, Roger looking for the outside once again. That's Wilson, Schulze, Lombards once again with a bit of a wiggle there. The top 5 now for those last 2 laps. They crossed the line quite a bit earlier than anticipated. So last 2 laps now, this lap and the next lap. Lombards right in front of Schulze, in front of Wilson, Roger and Egmond, and Swears is right behind that as well. 5 seconds only separating him from the rest of the pack. So all of them fighting together, all of them side by side, slowing each other down a little bit. So quite honestly, from what I've seen, everything's on the table. Maybe Swears will join this last minute battle as well. What a crazy race this has been, and I'm just at a loss of words, everyone. I just can't express how crazy this entire race has been. Now Wilson, actually one of them on the apron as well. Wilson defending from Roger and Egmond, and Swears actually, and Wilson once again over the grass completely. Swears as well, and Swears only 1.8 seconds behind Van Egmond now. Lombard's desperate to keep the lead from Schulze, only 3.5 tenths separating the 2 cars. And this is now the last lap, 15 seconds ago as they cross the line. And I am pretty sure this is now down to whoever can get this perfect last lap together. Jordi Sveers pumps out another fastest lap with a 31.171. And that is once more contact on Egmont and Roger, I think. So quite an unsightly ending to that battle. We also lost Wilson, I think, somewhere along the way. So I think there might have been a spin or something there, but back to the front, back to the lead battle on the last lap. Lombards and Schulze, nose to tail. Lombards very aggressive over the grass. Schulze looking for that slipstream, and that slipstream game is already visible there. Less than 3/10, 2/10 now. Will he make a move into the bus stop for the outside? He is. Is he gonna make that move stick? And Lombards actually cuts quite away across the inside. And actually gains quite a lot of time through that. I don't know if he may have gotten a penalty for that, if it may have gotten him an unfair advantage. But nevertheless, Schulze comes here down to the line with a lot of slipstream, but 5/10 separate them. Lombards takes it in the last lap from Schulze, and Sveers goes for P3. Very unlikely finish, as we just had all sorts of different happenings, and that is a big crash coming across the line. And that is Plywatch coming across in 4th, Wilson in 5th, Roger 6th, Egmont 7th. And Vludiger actually loses a place, I think, just as they come across the line to Kaspersik. But I think that's Kaspersik in 8th, Vludiger 9th, Gomez in 10th, and then we would have... Actually, Vludiger still losing positions. Yeah, I think this is actually the battle for the last couple places here. So, what are they doing? I think they're bump drafting as well. So Krillas Gomez actually trying to go for an unlikely bump draft. There's actually a lot of contact there as well. So Kaspersik and they... oh, they're really taking the Daytona spirit of NASCAR here. So Gomez with a spin and... or being spun, just completely chaos across the line. Yeah, Vludiger, Gomez and Kaspersik getting across the line. I really would love to have some interviews with the guys here, because what a couple of last laps. I think I speak for everyone who's into racing, that these last couple of laps were certainly more eventful than a majority of the last couple of F1 races. We saw so many different moves, competition drive-throughs, which I don't think I've heard that term before, for sure. Competition caution as well, just everyone just slowing down a little bit, and I hope that I can get some of the guys in for an interview. If not, of course, I have to thank all of our sponsors here, all of our supporting sponsors, HyperX, Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, Visit Malta, and Melita, of course, for making this possible, for all of their support. And we actually get some interviews here. Just before I start interviewing, I'm also going to mention, our broadcast partners, TVM Sport, ESTV, and Motorsport TV. But our first interview here, as you're the first one here, is a speedy boy for John Alesi Sport Academy, Jordi Zweers.
Hey Nico, how are you?
How are you doing, man? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
I'm doing well as well.
That's good to hear, dude. How was your race? Quite eventful, but it
definitely was quite eventful. I made a really silly, bad mistake at the start. It was not very smart. I didn't expect the guys in front to brake so early. I tried to avoid them, but I clipped, I think, Alistair on the rear, so my apologies to him. I ruined his race. Kind of my own. I don't know how I ended up here, but I somehow did. It was indeed very eventful, but very enjoyable car and track combination.
Yeah, that for sure. High-powered prototype on a low downforce track such as this, and of course Daytona Prototype International at Daytona. It just fits well together, doesn't it? But for the last couple of laps, What were you thinking, just closing in suddenly on the top 4, top 5 positions?
Well, because the gap was so big, I thought the race was over, but the gap was going down really quickly, and I somehow found myself on the podium after guys crashing. Yeah, it was very unexpected, I must say.
So very unexpected. Definitely some words to overall just sum up the race with. Thank you very much, Jordi. Any shout-outs to sponsors or friends, family?
Yeah, thanks to John Lazy, thanks to Husband Automotive for making this race possible. Thank you, guys.
Right, and then we shall move on to our next interviewee, Peter Schulze, second place, and quite a lot of pace throughout the entire race. What do you have to say about your race? How did it all go down? You certainly hit us with some unexpected moves.
Yeah, I think we were quite competitive. We set out on quali to get out of the mess of turn 1 and lap 1 and go from the back, basically fighting the way through. Quite some nice battles, especially with the likes of Cameron, Tom, Jordi. Yeah, I think pace was quite good. Battles are good. We had a competition caution called later on the radio. I don't know why, probably some debris or something, but this bunched the field right up and made, I think, an entertaining end to the race.
Right, and I also heard something from Alistair about competition drive-through.
Yeah, well, I think it was early on we were fighting with Michael, and Michael got drive-through for, I think, a mistake with Ton, where he ended up in Ton, actually. So, yeah, we decided to take the drive-through as well to basically continue our battle. But then I think Michael got aero damage later on and lost top speed, so we kind of lost him.
Well, absolute sportsmanship here, absolute act of chivalry. You definitely made these last couple of minutes a lot more exciting than we expected them to be, just with all these unforeseen actions. Are there any shout-outs you want to make to team, to sponsors, to family, to friends?
Yeah, obviously shout out to Hydroid Automotive, great partner of us, and also Lab Sim Racing, who provide us with the best feedback, best setup, best teamwork, and basically sponsored nearly half of the field today, I think.
Well, quite impressive there. And of course, then we move over to our winner, Mr. Lombard. How can you describe your feelings right now after winning this crazy, crazy race?
Wow, it's amazing. I've never done anything more insane in my life. It was very good. I'm really high up in the clouds right now.
So in the last couple of minutes in qualifying, we saw you just make a little mistake in turn 1, and then Mr. Gomez just got the drop on you there with that last fast lap. But
yeah, that was.
yeah,
I'm still. Sorry, yeah, this will still make me lose sleep at night. I mean, this pole position, it was incredible that I managed to miss it. But yeah, in the end, it was a 45-minute race, so it didn't really matter that much.
Either way, started on the front row, and of course, still a fantastic race from you, fantastic battles, and overall, just were you guys coordinating that a little bit, just with the LARP guys, maybe, just on the TeamSpeak or Discord together?
Well, I mean, it all started with the competition caution. I saw there was a loose curb, so I quickly radioed to my support team, and they called a quick competition caution for us. And yeah, it was a nice end to the race. We also had a competition drive-through, which has already been explained. Basically, we were yeah, just me and Pepe. So we decided to play it sporting and drop ourselves back and have some more racing. It was really good fun.
Yeah, definitely true racing fans here, not just on the stands, but also in the cars. So yeah, do you have any shout-outs to make to? Do you have anyone to thank? Anything? Team sponsors?
Firstly, I would like to give a huge thanks to LARP for their great technical support, which certainly allowed. Without them, I wouldn't have this victory wouldn't have been possible. And then secondly, I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Hydroid Automotive. There's episode 3 of the road trip is coming out soon, so subscribe to that channel and stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely using the opportunity to thank sponsors perfectly there.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you all for the fantastic race you gave us, and of course, thank you all for coming here, guys.
No problem.
And thank you for the great commentating, Nico.
Thanks a lot, dude. But yeah, this was it. 45 minutes, a casual race at Daytona in our Daytona Prototype International Acura ARX-05s. Definitely a lot of excitement, definitely a lot of unforeseen action, but I hope everyone watching enjoyed this. Of course, if you want to be part of this, join World Pro Racing by registering on the website, by joining the Discord, and of course, like, follow, share, and subscribe with our social media, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Of course, thank you to our sponsors, HyperX Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, visitmalta.com, and Melita. And of course, you can also watch this on, this was also broadcast or will be broadcast on TVM Sport, ESTV, Motorsport TV. And that is about it. My name was Nicholas Hillebrand. Special thanks, of course, as always, to Justin and Nathan Mifsud in the broadcast booth for directing all of this beautiful race. Thank you very much, Shadron Figayo, for our FAA accredited steward here. And I think George as well, unless he wasn't here today. I don't quite know. But either way, thank you very much for watching, and I hope we see you once more once we soon start the next couple of casual races, and of course, the WBR Sprint Series on Assetto Corsa Competizione.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.